You're watching She's Gone Country, growing up on the Christensen Brothers Rodeo Ranch. Becky and Vicki are sharing the roots of rodeo and connecting the generations with stories behind the stories of our rich Western heritage. Keeping the spirit of the American Cowboy and Cowgirl alive, they are the CB Cowgirls.
Well, good morning. It's Thursday. We're here in beautiful Las Vegas at the Roper Cowboy Marketplace. It is the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo, and we are the CB Cowgirls with She's Gone Country. I'm Becky, and this is my beautiful aunt, Vicki.
Good morning, everyone. We're so happy to see you here. You know, like Becky said, it's Thursday. We're on the downhill slide. It's been just a great run in Vegas, Cowboy Town.
It has been really busy this year. It seems like there's been so much going on. We were over at the South Point last night, and it was crazy busy. And, of course, our sponsor, Boyd Gaming Shootout, has us over at the Orleans, great facility over there, and they have been extremely busy. They've got the all-out girls barrel racing, which Group W, who also puts this event on, is putting that event on.
They just finished up the junior resistol shootout. And so that was at the Orleans Arena, which is a great venue, and we enjoyed it. Just so much going on. And, you know, Becky, we probably need to touch on our sponsors because we wouldn't be here without a great team backing us up.
Of course. And like we said, Boyd Gaming Shootout, they are a presenting sponsor, so we appreciate all that they do for us. And, of course, we want to say thank you to Trace Rios. I'm wearing a beautiful Trace Rios necklace for everything that I have. Trace Rios, and they are over at Cowboy Christmas, booth 511.
Booth 511. Stop in and say hello to Brett and the crew. And then, of course, Becky, where would we be if we didn't have American hats?
I love our American hats. We thank Keith Mundee and all the staff that so graciously supports us and styles our hats. I also want to say thank you, of course, to Rodeo Smart Marketing. They do all of our website and our marketing materials, and Bill McRoberts and Field to Frame Productions. They have been here hosting and doing all the behind-the-scenes footage and coverage and media, and they work long, tired hours. So thank you to you guys.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, and we've been a radio show for 4 years, and we've been on 4 radio and hosted Blog Talk. She's Gone Country on Blog Talk Radio. So thank you to Maria DiGiovanni, and you can find all of our archives there or at shesgonecountry.us. I haven't mentioned that this week, so
no, we haven't.
I better mention that. And then, of course, I want to say a special thank you as well to one of our sponsors that came on board, and he just happens to be my honey bunny, and that's Mr. Gray Mapston. He has Gray Mapston Shoeing Hammers, and you can find him on Facebook. He's got some great shoeing hammers for farriers out there, so check him out. And one thing I do want to say is Saturday is the last day, and we're going to be doing championship Saturday. And when we do that, we have one gift certificate to give away for a 40X hat, just like we're wearing. So if you are around, please come to the live show, and we'll be giving that away.
Absolutely. We love American hats.
Yes. And really quick, before we bring our guests up, we have 3 great guests to join us today. I want to just ask Aunt Vicki, as we talked about all the things going on, how's Pecos been doing on his roping?
Pecos has been having a great time. You know, all of these youngsters that travel to the junior NFR, sorry about that, they work year long to make it to Las Vegas. And, you know, it's so wonderful to see the younger generation of rodeo coming up through the ranks because they are the future, absolutely the future. But anyway, Pecos had a great day yesterday. He ended up winning 4th in the go-round. Something's wrong with my mic here, Monty. 4th in the go-round and 4th average at the Resistol Junior Shootout. And we're going to watch him rope today at Roy Cooper's Invitational.
Yes, and that'll be a fun event over at the Cowboy Christmas. So let's go ahead and bring up our guests. We'll get them all up here on stage and welcome to the stage before we go to our first break and just dive right in. So the first guest we want to welcome to the stage. Now, every year we like to try and put one show together where we really focus on the contract personnel, particularly the stock contractors. Of course, it's because we come from a stock contracting family, and we know the hard work that goes into that, the caliber of stock that they produce, as well as not just riding stock, but actual family stock. You get good families from stock contracting families.
Absolutely.
And so first we want to extend a well wishes to Cotton Rosser. He was originally intending to be on stage with us, but he had an injury and is unable to be with us today.
Right. Cotton and Karen, we'll catch up with him a little later. Yes. He's doing great, but he just had a doctor appointment, had to fly back to California, and had to cancel today.
Yes.
But we have another
Great.
Fantastic guest. Foundation,
Yes.
Rodeo Stock Contracting Family.
Yep. And so I want to welcome to the stage, I finally just had the pleasure of getting to meet him a couple days ago. My husband and him have been friends for many years. So I want to welcome to the stage Mr. Marty Barnes. Marty Barnes Pro Rodeo out of Iowa.
Mm-hmm. Cherokee, Iowa. Welcome, Marty.
Did I say Iowa? Did I say Iowa? Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Those are big shoes to fill, though. Cotton Rosser, he's a legend.
Well, so's Barnes Pro Rodeo.
Absolutely.
So, you have some heavy shoes you're walking in, too. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next guest that we want to bring to stage, I'll let Vicki introduce.
All righty. We have a very special lady that's an inspiration to so many and has been. She's been a career woman, a single mom, a gal that loves the Western lifestyle like we all do. From Rodeo News, the founder, Siri Stevens. Siri, come up here, please. Siri lives in Colorado.
Siri, I love your vest. That's beautiful. All the bling. I love mustard yellow.
I do. It's one of my favorite colors. I complimented her on it on the ride over here. It's beautiful.
Okay, and then, of course, we're having a special guest join us today. And as we mentioned earlier, we can't do what we do without our sponsors. And everything that this gentleman's company represents is truly the heart of the American Cowboy. So I want to welcome to the stage President of American Hats, Keith Mundee.
Welcome, Keith.
Did you guys call each other and coordinate your jackets? Hats?
I like
That's
this.
good, because we do.
I didn't realize that guys did that kind of thing, too. Did you, Becky?
I think it's subliminal.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today. It's a foundational day today. You guys have, all three of you do so much for the sport of rodeo, from stock contract personnel to media and broadcast and publication to dressing all of us cowboys in the very best. So I just want to start with Marty. Marty, because your family is a foundational family of rodeo. And one of the things that I realized as I was studying up on, of course, Aunt Vicki knows a lot about you guys, and I know she's going to have some fun stories to share with you two, between you two, but your company, your family, is one of the only other companies that have had stock at the NFR all years. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, it is, and Dad was really proud of that. He worked hard for that. He started his company in 1950, took his bib overalls off and put some jeans on and a hat, and just, he always, the story was he bought 7 horses from Tuffy Brewer in Yankton, South Dakota on credit. And if I have a good year next year, they'll be paid off finally.
And so goes the rodeo stock contractor's way of life. Well, Marty, your dad, Bob Barnes, your mom, Donita, what a special couple. They mean absolutely so much to the world of rodeo. And it was such a pleasure to be able to get to know them and spend some time. I mean, I grew up on the Oregon coast, but we finally met up in Oklahoma City and got to visit. But can you share with us a little bit more about, they started out in 1950. What about you kids growing up? How, share with our listeners a little bit, our audience, about growing up on a rodeo ranch and just what all that consisted of.
Well, I know that I'm blessed because of it. Again, everything changes, and I was born in 1961. He had 80 acres with a farmhouse, didn't have a lane to it, didn't have running water, didn't have electricity when he bought it, but he got it cheap, and he made it into something just like his rodeo business. He started for nothing, and hard work, putting the effort in is his big deal. Just work hard, put your effort in, and you'll get somewhere.
Work hard and integrity is what I read, and I love that because, again, all of us, we work hard for what we do, and it's because of the passion that we carry for the Western world. And Siri, you as well, you've spent your life with work ethic, integrity, all to produce everything that you do on your show, Keith. I know, and everything you've done to build up American Hats, it can't be done without integrity and work ethic. And I'm really excited to talk about that. And Marty, I know that you've been here since December 1st. We got about 30 seconds before I go to break. How you feeling today? Are you making it?
No, I'm doing okay. There's still a few people I haven't got to see. That's my highlight, is getting to come here and see all my friends I get to see once a year. Because of business, our paths don't cross a lot, But, a lady yesterday said, "Are you ready to go home?" I said, "No, ma'am, I'm ready to be home, but the driving home, that's the hard part."
And Iowa's not a easy tote. It's quite how far away is that?
It's just over 1,500 miles, and I'll stop twice on the way home, let stock off.
Okay, so that's about a half as far as I got to drive to Missoula. So that's not, I know that one because I drove to Texas this summer, and that is a long haul. We are having some special guests on the stage today. It's all about honoring the stock contract personnel, those that are behind the scenes, that really when you see the finished product, they're the reason why, because they're carrying on the stories, they're carrying on making sure our cowboys and cowgirls are fitted right and that they're getting on the right kind of stock and making sure the events are going off great. So welcome from Barnes Pro Rodeo, Mr. Marty Barnes, and from Rodeo News, we have Siri Stevens, and from American Hats, Keith Mundee.
Welcome back. Well, you know, Marty, right before break, you touched upon rodeo livestock, and you said on the drive back from Vegas to Cherokee, Iowa, you're going to stop twice and let the stock out. Tell us, how many head of stock do you have here at this 2017 WNFR?
We've got 5 horses out here. We had a saddle bronc out the other night, and they were 80 and a half on her. And we've got some saddle horses out here also they use in the opening, and then they also in the Queen pageant. And one of them got voted 4th best horse there, so that's kind of exciting, you know.
That is really exciting, and you know, having so many different horses come in for those young women to ride in the Miss Rodeo America competition, that's a great honor. It truly is.
Yes, it is, and it's what's fun for me is seeing some of those ladies. There'll be 6 or 8 of those different states that come around us during the summer to see them come here, and if they're fortunate enough to, you know, get on one of ours, that's great, or maybe it isn't so great. Kind of depends on the horse that day.
It kind of depends on the horse that day, but that is what brings out the cowgirl.
Well, and not only that, does that bring out the cowboy, the stories bring out the cowboy. And I know, Sarah, you spend a lot of time traveling down the road, capturing those stories in print and pictures. Tell us a little bit about your travels, and have you been back to Iowa and covered some of Marty's rodeos?
I never made it back to Iowa, although I became really good friends with your parents, and I do miss them. For me, it's an honor to be here, especially between these two guys.
Siri, I'm going to have you hold up the...
Especially between these two wonderful gentlemen. I couldn't ask for better companions up here for this show. I started the Rodeo News 16 years ago. It was a publication that was meant for ropers in Colorado and Wyoming, and I had a vision to turn it into a rodeo magazine, and it took me 16 years, but we're the largest in the nation now. So we represent 48 rodeo associations across the nation. And it's just been great. It's been a great partnership. I love telling stories. I think cowboys and cowgirls have the Western integrity and the real meaning of life down. And so it's an honor for me to be able to write about them and take their pictures, from the peewees to the seniors. We actually did a story on a gentleman that was in the National Senior Pro, and this guy had a double lung transplant. And within a year, he was tying down calves again. It wasn't pretty at first, but he was getting it done. So
now that's hard, and he was doing what he loves to do. And you know, and Siri, you connect the generations, and that's what Becky and I here at She's Gone Country with the CB Cowgirls, we love that. We're all about the history and connecting the generations. And I also love the fact, Siri, that Rodeo News is a family business.
It is, actually. Both my daughters work with me. I'm very blessed that I actually get along with them well enough to have them working with me day in and day out. They don't have a day that we don't see each other. So one of them is the office manager and the other one is the salesperson. So it works out really, really good. So we branched out a little bit this year from the Rodeo News, and we also have produced 2 calendars. So our Back When They Bucked calendar is about the gentlemen that we write about that rodeoed in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and we put them together as a calendar, and I always tell them when we do the stories that they're going to be a pinup sometime next year, and that kind of excites them. And then my daughter does inspirational quotes, and so we do an inspirational calendar as well with photos that we take and quotes that we put together. So it's kind of a double deal that we are doing there.
And these are all your original photographs?
Yes, ma'am.
Beautiful,
yes,
beautiful.
Ma'am. Yeah.
Well, and you travel, I think I saw over 3,000 miles.
30,000.
30,000.
Okay, you're with me. Okay.
Yeah.
Woo-woo.
It's getting close to the last day, but we got it.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Wow, that's a lot of mileage. I know my Jeep's turning like 65,000, and it's not even 2 years old. So
it's all good. It's all good. You know, the cowboys do a lot more traveling than I do. Yes, ma'am. And so for what I do, it's nothing compared to what they do.
Yeah, and they do it hard. And Keith, you spend a lot of time making sure that they're dressed best and that they're representing the cowboy in the best way that your company knows how. So share a little bit about your company, American Hats.
Well, American Hats have been around for 103 years. So, and all we do is make cowboy hats. We don't do baseball caps. We don't do T-shirts. We don't do anything else. Just cowboy hats. And so we're pretty proud of that. You know, back in the day, they made hats out of pure beaver. And then at some point, somebody came up with the idea, well, let's put some wool in them because they'll be cheaper. And so they made a cheaper hat. And so what we've done is we've kind of come back and we're focused on quality. So we'll have hats from $2,500 all the way down to about $319. Mm-hmm. It's about as low as we go. But I've had people come in there and go, well, I want a $250 hat. I said, well, you're going to have to go someplace else. We just don't have that.
Right.
But we're focused on quality, and our whole goal is the hat means something, stands for something. Mm-hmm. And so wear the best hat you can afford, you know.
Absolutely. And, you know, I was really interested in, you know, if you could just take us through a quick tour of Bowie, Texas, and where the hats are made, because each American hat is made by hand.
Yes. We're in Bowie, Texas, and we've been there now for 17 years. We're in an old Hager Slack factory that I had looked at when I was with Miller. We looked at buying it when I was with Miller. And ironically, I'm back there now. That's where we live. But the factory itself is like a working museum. There's nothing high tech. We've got one guy at the factory who's been with us for 48 years.
Wow.
He was walking by the factory in Houston and found a bag in the parking lot that had some money in it. He took it into the front office, and it was Bubba Silver's cash. And Bubba tried to give him a reward, and he said, no, I don't want a reward. He said, I want a job. He said, you come back today after school, and I'll have you a job. Well, Andre's still with us 48 years later, and he lives in Houston. So on Friday night, he drives back down to Houston, helps take care of his mom on the weekend, and then Sunday night, he drives back up to Bowie there and stays there during the week. So, and he's a fanatic about quality. So nothing goes out of there. We don't machine each hat. They're done by feel, and so they're not done until we feel them and we say those are good enough. So.
Well, and how many distributors at this point do you have around the country? Because I know you have your store there in Bowie.
Well, they have the best hat store in Cowtown there at Fort Worth, which that's where we go when we stop through, and we love to drop in and say hello and take a look at all the new items.
Yeah, and Keith and Susan Maddox own the factory, and they own the Best Hat Store. So they had the Best Hat Store before they bought American Hat Company. And the Best Hat Store actually does more hats than any store in the nation.
Wow.
So, yeah, they are the largest seller of all kinds of hats. And so, and they've made hats for a lot of famous people. But now we get people flying in to meet them there on private jets, and they get a courtesy car, come over, get their hat made, and get back on a jet and fly back home.
Well, and I'm just gonna ask. You know, you talk about making hats for very famous people. You had the opportunity to make a hat for President of the United States. What was that like?
Well, that was kind of interesting because we got a call from Eric Trump, and so I'm thinking this is a prank call from one of my friends, you know, think this is not going to be. And so I was like, hey, let me call you right back. And so,
Call your friends.
So anyway, dialed back his Trump Tower. So he just says, I want to buy a hat. He saw Sid Miller had worn American hat when Sid was doing some speeches for Donald Trump, and so he said American Hat Company, and he did the research on it. And then Treasure Maddox, the Maddox's daughter, who lives in New York City, works for Jimmy Choo.
Okay.
Her boyfriend and Eric are best friends.
Oh my goodness!
And so there's
such a
weird,
small world.
Weird connection there, yeah. But anyway, so we got hooked up with them and made the presidential hat for Donald Trump. And then shortly thereafter, Rex Tillerson called, and Secretary of State, and wanted us to make a hat for him. So we made those were both 1000X hats, so they were pure belly beaver with mink mixed in them.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, and I think it's just a testament to, I really think you're seeing a grassroots movement come back. I really think you're seeing that our country is in desperate need to reconnect to our roots and where we come from and the hard work and the integrity. And we need that. We need that to come back. So I think it's quite fitting that our president would call American hats for a hat. I mean...
And we like this cowboy hat means something. So when you walk through the front doors of an elementary school, the boots don't make a cowboy, the jeans don't make a cowboy, the belt, the buckle, the shirt, the hat to an elementary school kid makes you the cowboy. So, we have a tendency to get off, and we see a lot of ropers wearing baseball caps and stuff like that now. And I tell those kids, I said, it's a privilege to get to wear this hat. You need to put it on whenever you can, because what this hat represents is hard work, dedication, doing what you say you're going to do, and then helping somebody who's not as fortunate as you are. So.
Absolutely. Well, and I know that every year you guys are so busy, and this is kind of the culmination, and you guys after this will, I'm assuming, go home, spend time and Christmas with your families, but really it's just continuous. We're already into the 2018 season for rodeo, so we've already got, I know the convention just happened and you guys have signed your contracts and you know where you're going. We are here today at the Roper Cowboy Marketplace. We are filming for the Cowboy Channel, and we are on day 7 here at the WNFR, and we are joined by some great guests today, and we've been visiting with Mr. Marty Barnes, Siri Stevens, Keith Mundee. Sorry, I got my tongue tied. And gosh, you guys all have such individual and great stories. And I think we'll talk a little bit about 2018. We were talking about that before the break, but I want to talk about some stories.
Well, let's do. Marty, I know you have some great ones. I know that, I know that you just flew back from Molalla, Oregon, meeting with the committee, on Tuesday?
Yes, ma'am,
on Tuesday. And so, not only is he out here in Las Vegas, with his livestock and going through convention, meeting committees, but he's also flying out to meet committees. And that puts a whole new twist, because I know, Marty, when your mom and dad and my dad and uncle were in the rodeo business, a handshake. It was all about a handshake. And it's nice to know you have a story to share about that a handshake still means something in the cowboy world.
Yes, ma'am, it sure does. And the air's getting kind of thin in here. My throat's kind of constricting up when I start thinking about that stuff, but it does. It means so much. If you shake somebody's hand, that's your bond. It means more than any kind of piece of paper, because that paper you can take to court and they'll screw it up every time. But if you shook a guy's hand and looked him in the eye, that means something. And that's what I did up there to Molalla. They wanted to change, and basically I'm just going to be their general manager for their rodeo. I've got 35 other rodeos throughout the year that I'm doing, from Perry, Georgia in February to Molalla on the 4th of July and Minnesota State Fair after that even. But I don't have paper with those folks. I shook his hand, looked him in the eye, and I trust him.
And that's called honor. His word is good. And all of us here, we are happy to know that honor means something to the rodeo family. Siri, you travel year-round, and I love to see every new issue of Rodeo News when it comes out, because all of Siri's original photographic work is in Rodeo News, and I love the fact, again, that it covers every aspect. Siri, a special story, something that's really touched your heart this past year as you went down the rodeo trail.
I can't single one out, really. I am just honored and blessed to be able to do what I do. The Lord owns the magazine. I don't own it. So I really seek his advice when I'm trying to pick who's going to be on the cover of it, or who's going to be in it at all. It comes to me. I don't go seek it, and it's clear who's going to be in the magazine. Each one of the rodeo associations that we represent, we write Meet the Members for them. So a lot of these kids, all of them want to be here. They want to be contestants at the NFR, and they want to wear this American hat, and they want to get on his stock. And so for a lot of those kids, their little story in the Rodeo News is the only publicity they ever get. And so the parents frame it, and it's really important to them to have their stories done. So it's important to me to tell those stories, from the peewees to the older people. There's a lot of back when they bucked people. Bob Thane, the guy that brought the rodeo here, that was able to, he put tickets. Bob Thane actually put tickets at the casino on the crap tables just to get people to come to this rodeo when it started.
Wow.
He believed in it that much. And so his story is in here. Butch Morgan, who's the market person for Western Horsemen, he's the best promoter of the Western lifestyle I know, and his story is in here. He used to be a trick rider. So I've just been blessed all along. Probably my favorite one was your dad. When I put his story in the back when they bucked, he used to come to our booth in a little red scooter every day. I need another bundle of them books. And he would just give them out like they were candy. It was an honor to be able to represent this industry that we have.
Well, and you mentioned Bob Thane, and the story I think of the most of Bob Thane. No, she had mentioned Bob Thane a few minutes ago and his contribution. And I used to sell rodeo programs for Bob Thane at our rodeos. And I remember, I think we were somewhere in Southern California, and he just used to plop me up in the booths and hand me a little thing you tie around it, the money pockets. And I sold those little programs for 25 cents a piece.
Probably one of my favorite things, Jack Bushbaum, who is the world champion saddle bronc or bareback rider, he... somebody called the office shortly after we had his story in the magazine, and they said, I think I have Jack Bushbaum's world champion saddle. And her boyfriend was going to pawn it at a pawn shop. He ended up with it. He didn't know how. She happened to see a magazine sitting on a coffee table and called us up, and I called Jack, and he busted into tears. He had it stolen at the racetrack in Colorado in the 70s, and I was able to reunite him with his saddle. That was a very special moment for us.
Wow. There's so many stories. I know, Keith, you've been traveling down the road, and you get to interact with so many great committees, vendors, rodeo competitors. What sticks out in your mind the most as far as when you're putting a hat on someone's head?
The thing that, for us at American Hat Company, the kids adopted this brand at high school rodeo. And because we made the fancy vent straw hats. And so the day of the plain white hat with 3 eyelets in it is over. And so when the kids adopted our brand, then at that point, as a rancher, what do you want to do? You want to brand calves.
Right.
And so I don't really want to.
Good.
Yeah, so that's all we're doing
Great
here
metaphor.
is branding calves. And then so now we get overrun with these kids, and social media is a powerful tool. And we get these kids that they want to wear our hat. And I said, well, you got to get on social media then, and you got to hashtag American Hat Co. Well, this one mom said, well, I do all of his social media. And she said, I'm not very good at it. And I said, well, just do your best. I said, you just do whatever you do. We don't tell you what to do. It's got to come from your heart. And the next day she posts from Mount Rushmore. And she's got this kid looking up at Mount Rushmore like this, and he's got his hat on, and on the back it's got an American Hat sticker. And so there's his back, Mount Rushmore, and the post underneath it said, one of the great wonders of the world, American Hat Company. And
I love it.
And so that thing
Did you hire?
So whenever, and I said, I thought you couldn't do social media. I thought you were no good at it. She said, well, I just tried something and it worked. So
That was like the
that
best.
one was everywhere, got shared a lot. But now we've got just a bunch of kids that love the brand. They ride for the brand. They're very loyal to the brand. So we became the official hat of Junior High School Rodeo, High School Rodeo, Little Britches Rodeo, IFYR, and AJRA. So that's our goal, is to give back to the kids and get them. And once you've got those kids, then they grow up in your brand.
Absolutely. And, we had Dixie Huxtable, who's the newly elected president of the National High School Rodeo Association, on a couple days ago. Yep. And, gosh, there's over 12,500 members in the high school division only. So what an accomplishment, Keith, for American Hat, and how blessed those kids are to be able to wear the very best.
And they regenerate every 4 years. You get a whole new crop. So.
That's right.
See, they keep coming up. So.
Yeah, you just keep every year it's 25% new, and every 4 years you got the whole new crop. So
they say that like when you have a child and youth group or in children's ministries, they say if you can get to the heart of a child, you'll get to the parent. It's kind of the same thing with American Hats.
And that's true. Now we've got parents coming up to us and thanking us for being a sponsor of High School Rodeo. And they're buying our brand because we're doing something for the kids. So I'm the same way. If you do something for one of my kids, then I'm going to be pretty loyal to your brand. So mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, brother, sister. So it's turned out to be a great opportunity for us to grow that brand.
Well, and I think one of the questions that I have for all of you, just because, our competitors today, they are younger. Well, at least to me, they're younger because I'm just getting older. But really quick, we have about 2 minutes. When you look at the youth today, what is the one thing you feel like you guys, as the older generation, ourselves included, can give back to them to really encourage them to return to that moral standard that a lot of the kids in this generation are lacking?
Well, at our deals, we do a few high school and junior high rodeos, but it sure doesn't pay very good. And we do it because of encouraging those kids to come and enjoy our event. And so that's what we do. We go there, we have fun. You know, those guys are half scared, those roughies, because they don't know what's going to happen. The time vendors, they got a little more control of what's going on, but we're just there to encourage them and say, man, keep it fun, and let's help you get where you want to get.
We love it. Siri?
And for me, I'm really proud of the fact that kids still read.
Yes,
I think that's
true.
a big deal. So when we do print, people are saying kids don't want to pick up magazines anymore, and I find that not to be true. So it's good. We've got to pass through all the way through the family. We're known as the Rodeo Bible. And people say they fight over the magazine when they get it at their house. So that's encouraging to me to know that they read and that they want to be spotlighted in the magazine. That's really encouraging.
Well, and I think that with your photography, you know, our eyes were visual. We catch that first. So if you have really standout photos that catches our youth's eye, they're going to want to read what the photo's about.
Love taking pictures of kids. They're wonderful. And I send Keith a bunch of them. Yeah. His hats are standout. I mean, the quality and the color and the vibrancy of them, I love them. I wear one of the craziest ones, and I get more compliments on that in the summertime than any other hat I've ever worn. So.
Well, and you've branched out. You've got fedoras. Now you have all kinds of great things. And I know, Keith, you guys always strive, obviously, like you just were mentioning, to reach the youth. We are here with Mr. Marty Marty Campbell, I don't know where I got that. Marty Barnes. It's kind of like I said, it was the 7th day, and it's actually the 8th day. So, you know, when you stay down here, this is week 2 for me, so, you know, give me a little bit of grace. And we have Siri Stevens and Keith Mundee, so thank you so much for joining us. And just before the break, we were talking with our guests about how they use what they have in their little toolbox of stock contracting and publication and beautiful hats, and how we can give back to our youth and really encourage them to persevere and be an example with integrity and hard work. So we had some great answers. Keith, I know we didn't really get a chance to hear how you feel about that, so I just want to pick up and see what you have to say about, you know, American hats and how you guys work to do that.
It's an interesting story because Keith and Susan Maddox own the company, and Keith Maddox has been around the rodeo world for a long, long time. And he's one of them kind of guys that everybody likes him. You want to sit at his table because there's going to be some laughing going on at his table. He just has a great time. He's a really positive guy. But when he bought this company, he had tried to buy another company before this. That didn't work. Then he tried to buy this company, and they decided to give it to the kids. And so it took the kids about 9 or 10 years to get sideways with each other and run it in the ground. And they did, and when he found that out, he swooped back in and was able to buy this company. And so you think at that point, then, you know, we lived happily ever after. Moved it to Bowie, Texas, and moving a company from Houston, Conroe area up to Bowie. That's a monumental task, getting all the steam and the pressures and getting all this old antique equipment moved, set. Well, then what happened is a grass fire came through Bowie, Texas, and we had $13.5 million in raw material out in ocean-going containers, and it all got smoke damage. And we lost all of that. Well, so at that point you think, you know, maybe it's not meant to be and time to give up, but I like to say, I wasn't there obviously, but I like to say that he probably tilted his hat back on his head and pushed his chips to the middle of the table, and he said, I'm going to bet it all. I'm going to bet it all on American Hat Company. And, you know, I know that they went through some tough times because at one point in time, Susan said, hey, I think we maybe need to rethink this and do something else. He said, we don't have a plan B. There is no, he said, the house is on the line, the 401k is on the line, everything's on the line. So he literally bet it all. And now, you know, to see the success that the company's having is heartwarming. And he just sits over there at the booth and you about can't wipe the smile off his face. And so that gives me joy to, you know, and people say, well, did you see it? Did you see this coming? Did you see this? He said, well, this is what I had in mind, but he said, I didn't know it was going to take this long.
Right.
You know,
so perseverance, hard work, and that's really what that story alone is a testament to our youth to really continue to just dig in and strive and to attain and reach their goals.
Pick out something, you know, I always say, you know, do what you love what you do, but when you pick out something and you have a goal and you have a vision, we all need to hang on to that, and we need to stick with it, and we need to persevere.
He says if you never quit, you can't be beat.
That's a good thing. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
There you go.
I like it.
Yes.
Now, I have a question for Marty. I know that you have some brothers and sisters, and you have a breeding program and a ranch that you still maintain back home. Tell us a little bit about your breeding program.
Yes, ma'am. The rodeo business has changed a lot through the years, just like contestants have. You know, guys really taking care of their bodies more now. They're rodeo athletes instead of just old cowboys off the range, you know. And that came true, I guess, with our breeding program. We bought a 4-year-old stallion colt that Bernice Johnson was selling in 1979. His mama was Cat Blue, and he was the last one that day, and I got the auction fever as a senior in high school, and I bought him for $400. And Dad said, "What did you do?" You know, but he grew up and was a huge impact on our herd. And it turned out when we researched it more, he was half brother to Sippin' Velvet, who was a many-time horse of the year. So we just got lucky, and sometimes that happens. You know, you just stay out of the way and let God take care of it, and it'll work.
Absolutely.
Well, isn't that the truth? I mean, sometimes when we are our worst enemy and we stumble and trip our own selves up when Lord's got a plan for us. We just need to get out of our own selves. So tell us how many brothers and sisters help with your operation now?
I've got a sister that's older and a brother that's younger.
Another middle kid.
We were all involved. And then once Mom and Dad passed away and the estate gets settled, now Barnes Rodeo is myself and then my family. I've got a wife and 5 kids. My oldest son is 29 and my youngest is 12. And I got girls in between, but everybody gets there and gets dirty at the same time. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. They know how to fix fence. They know how to throw out hay. You know, to our audience, you know, Marty, just a little bit about, you know, I'm truly honored to have you here because one of the very first stock contractors, and your dad was inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame back in 1994. And then after your mom, your beautiful mom, I love that lady so much, after she passed on, the PRCA changed the name of their award. Share that with us, please. It's now the Donita Barnes Achievement Award.
Yeah, I got to catch my breath a minute.
As I say, you're going to get teary-eyed.
But it was a huge honor. You know, It meant so much more to us. When Mom got that award, because it represents everybody that works so hard, you know, and don't necessarily get the recognition because of where you're at or what you're doing. And everybody that's won it since then has been so deserving that it's really so humbling.
Her name carries that award. This lady was just a beautiful heart, a hard worker, and she'd walk into a room and just like Keith Maddox, she'd want to go be around her because of what was inside of her. Thank you for sharing that with us, Marty.
Well, thank you.
Well, and a question I have for all of you, and we can bounce back and forth, and you guys can talk amongst yourselves as well, but, you know, we are living in such a changed atmosphere and generation. Things are so much faster, and our industry is taking a hit because a lot of the generation coming up doesn't want to, you know, steer from... they're steering from the ranching and the farming communities. You know, what can we do to empower that? I mean, I know how important my heritage is to me. I know how important your guys' heritage is to you. But what do you think we can do to keep that agricultural spirit alive?
I think we need to get everybody off their phones, don't you?
Oh.
Put the phones away.
No phone zone. I guess for me, you know, the Rodeo News, we have 4 or 5 different ways of getting information out there and getting information in. We're so bombarded with information anymore, you guys. I don't know about you, but my email is full of stuff that I don't need or want, just like my mailbox used to be. And so I think for me, in the Western industry, just to take time and be quiet and be still and be still and know that I am God is what I say, but be still and just appreciate the fact that there is still wide open space out there for us to be part of, and we don't have to be part of this busy cement jungle all the time. That's where I think it's good to get kids out. I used to produce a rodeo just to show people what a rodeo was. And we had no admission fees. People could come in for free, and we fed them, and we showed them the rodeo. And it's people's try. And I'm over there at the convention center with the booth, and the junior NFR is going on upstairs. And I'll tell you what, there's a bunch of happy little kids running around up there competing. And having that up there has just made a world of difference for the kids coming up into the rodeo world, I think.
Well, Keith, we have just a couple minutes left, and I don't know if you can share it with us in just a couple minutes, but about the hat. And I think it's a great way to close out the show about the integrity of the hat.
So one of the things that I like to say is I don't necessarily sell cowboy hats. I sell membership into an exclusive club and then family heirlooms. So the hat that I have on inside, I have my name. It says made especially for me. On the other side, it has my granddaughter's name and her birthday. And so when I die, she gets this hat. So in my family, we've been handing the hat down generation to generation. So the hat means something. I had a guy walk into the booth the other day, and he said, well, I don't think I can wear a cowboy hat. I'm just a poser. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, well, I live in a city. I live in just a regular house. And I said, here's the deal. I don't care if you live in New York City and your boots have never, ever touched dirt. But when you go up to your high rise at night and you lay your head on the pillow, if you dream of big blue skies and white puffy clouds and wide open spaces, guess what? You're a cowboy. And I said, so you don't have to necessarily live the Western lifestyle, you just have to love it.
I love it. I love it. And, and that's what they're all here for today, was to share and highlight and give our audience a little bit about what it looks like in just different realms, because we all come from different walks of life, but we all come together to love the one walk of life, and that's the Western walk of life. So with that, and Vicki, do you have any final thoughts? We have about 30 seconds till our show's over already.
Well, I just want to thank our amazing guests, Marty Barnes, Siri Stevens, Keith Mundee. I want to thank all of you out here for being with us today, and just thank the good Lord that we live in this beautiful country that provides this opportunity for all of us.
Yeah. And the great thing is they all have website, AmericanHatStore.com, YourRodeoNews.com, I believe, and of course BarnesProRodeo.com. And I know, Marty, you produce about 30 events a year, and you're a busy man, so make sure you look them up and support all that they do for the Western world. That's it with She's Gone Country, and we'll be back tomorrow. You all have a great day.